Hello, everyone. My name is Arthur Hill, also known as Blood Red, representative of Empire Acadia Incorporated, and also a tournament player in the fighting game community. I like to pretty much say that I had a very wonderful experience last night while waiting on the line, pretty much at the not Ubisoft, what am I talking about? Union Square Best Buy, pretty much where I was able to secure myself a day one edition Xbox One console, which I don't know if you guys can kind of see. I mean, you guys can kind of make it out. This is kind of like the box. Pretty much, I like to speak on a few different things. Number one, I was elated. I was ecstatic. It was my first time in 8 years since I've actually stood a line for a video game launch. I'd also like to say I am very much proud to be a gamer, especially in this time, because there's so many different technologies out there that they're going in so many different directions in terms of media and social engagement and integration of the television and everything, and it's truly becoming a one-stop hub for all your entertainment needs. Now, with my Xbox One, I purchased Battlefield 4 and Rise Son of Rome, and I will pretty much be very much shortly downloading the Ultra Breaker edition of the Killer Instinct title. What I'd also like to talk about here is I'm not too keen on a lot of the reviewers that's out there. For instance, some people would give Rise low scores or saying that the game is too short. Given the very nature of the game of Rise Son of Rome, it is essentially an action adventure game or hack and slasher. We cannot have a hack and slasher that's 20 plus hours long because, quite frankly, the reviewer would then say, well, this game is a very, very long game in duration. And as a result, we feel that things are becoming quite repetitive. So it's almost like a catch-22. I feel the game of Rise, for instance, should be reviewed solely upon its combat mechanics, engaging storyline, and although it's short, there are many different reasons, personal reasons, why one can pretty much just go through the game again. Maybe you wanted to double execute people. Maybe you wanted to execute every single enemy. Maybe you wanted to go through the game without getting hit. That's very possible, depending on your skill as the gamer. There's a lot of different ways you can kind of personally challenge yourself that goes far beyond the Xbox achievement. Now, another game that I would like to discuss on the PlayStation 4 side to my Sony virtual brothers and sisters out there is a game called Killzone and Knack, which I feel Knack was kind of unjustly reviewed because I feel it showed Sony's approach to delivering a game that's for the children, that's for the, pretty much the younger demographic. And I feel that the game is actually pretty solid. It's not going to win the Game of the Year awards, of course, but I feel that the game should be recognized for its effort, for Sony's effort to push something for the younger crowd. Excuse me. In terms of Killzone, I feel that Sony, in my opinion, pretty much just from a business aspect, I feel that Sony would have done far better releasing Infamous Second Son at launch instead of Killzone. And the reason why I say this is simply because you're releasing your Sony PlayStation 4 with a first-person shooter while Call of Duty and Battlefield 4 are out on the market already. So the FPS is kind of oversaturated, and not to take anything away from Killzone, as I know there's quite a few Killzone fans out there, but realistically, the only game that stands up to Battlefield and Call of Duty, respectively, is Halo. I personally believe that had Sony released, maybe they couldn't do it, maybe they could not do this, but had they released Killzone, say, first quarter of next year, I think that it would have given Killzone a lot more room to breathe, and it can kind of come into its own without any outside distractions. The proof of this being is Ubisoft had Watch Dogs ready. My personal belief is, although they have they have more time to develop the game and tweak it, the mere fact that Grand Theft Auto 5 is still very fresh in people's minds, they didn't Ubisoft, I believe, didn't want to necessarily release Watch Dogs with the possibility of GTA 5 taking some of its thunder. So there's a lot of things that goes on in the gaming realm that goes far beyond just pressing simple buttons. Um, what I would like to also go back to saying is that on the hardware side, yes, the PlayStation 4 is about 40 or so percent more powerful than the Xbox One. But then again, there were some strength differences with the PS3 being over the Xbox 360, and we saw how that kind of all played out with Sony, I believe, selling about 81 or some odd million systems, and the Xbox 360 selling about 86 or something like that. I don't know the exact quote. Both systems, again, in this generation are fantastic machines, and you will definitely do well and do yourself justice in purchasing at least one of these. Now, in terms of the architecture, both systems feature pretty much an AMD Radeon graphics card. I forget, it's like a 7900. You know, you PC tech people may know it better than I do. What that means is that the architecture is more grounded. It's more akin to a PC. Now, for those people who are saying, well, Battlefield 4 and COD and some games don't render at 1080p like the PlayStation 4 versions. And these are some people out there that will say, well, the Xbox One can't render 1080p. That is actually incorrect. What it really comes down to is that the PlayStation 4 has 18 cores, pretty much, on its motherboard. It allows it to go about 1186 teraflops per second or something like that, whereas the Xbox One goes 768 teraflops per second, give or take a one or two. Now, what that necessarily means is that the Xbox has a similar motherboard, but because they decided to go with DDR3 RAM, that is a slower RAM than Sony's GDDR5. In order to kind of make up the difference, Microsoft Xbox One had to pretty much put on 32 megabytes of ESRAM, which is static memory, which works super fast and acts as sort of a go-between to kind of bring the Xbox speed in terms of the RAM computations up to at least somewhat of a level of parity. If not quite, at least go beyond what it would have been had the ESRAM was not put on the motherboard. Now, this is good news and bad news. The bad news is that with that being done, game developers now are going to have to learn the infrastructure a lot better than, say, the PlayStation 4. So what we're going to have now is that the Xbox One is going to be a little bit more difficult and technical to develop for, whereas the PlayStation 4 is going to be more streamlined and straight to the point. But when you have a system that's overtly powerful as the PS4 is, you're gonna basically see the differences in power between the two consoles with Sony's exclusives. But in terms of multi-platform games, developers tend to put a lot of games multi-platformed on the weaker system first. Now, the good news for Xbox One is that Microsoft did not necessarily focus 100,000% on gaming. We have gaming, media, integration. So with that being said, I pretty much personally, from a personal standpoint, I liked the direction that Microsoft is going. I like the type of goal and vision that they have, where they're pretty much going after a broader market, broader audiences, whereas the PlayStation 4 is essentially a souped up PS3. Sure, the PlayStation 4 has a lot of these same media kind of functionalities, but I feel that Sony, to their credit, are focusing more on their gaming demographic. And I 100% agree that they should. Now, things are going to heat up come next year. You know, probably first and second quarter, we have Destiny coming out, maybe Metal Gear, Infamous Second Son, Order 86, I think that's what it's called for the PS4. You know, we have a lot of strong titles that's coming out. And I believe, and I urge, you know, you guys to go out to your local Best Buy or GameStop and try to pre-order these titles, because they're going to definitely be hot titles, especially Destiny. And I just want to put this on record. I personally feel that Destiny is essentially, and this is not a bad thing, I feel Destiny is an amalgamation of Halo and Mass Effect put together. If you watch the trailers, you'll definitely see what I mean. So I know I'm pretty much going on, and with this video, this is not going to be another 40-minute video, guys. But I just wanted to take the time to pretty much put something out there, to my little fan base out there, and I appreciate each and every one of you guys. You know,